it recording him? Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah, awesome. Thank you all for being here. This is the Wednesday, February 11th, 2026 meeting of the Tenant Landlord Commission. I am Andrew Farrar, and I'm the chair of the commission. I would like to say that we do have an in-person quorum of Commissioners Kamala, Landford, Kristen Clegg, and myself present in the room. A reminder to all those on the call, if you are not here for, if you're here for Barcroft's relocation plan, please withhold your public comment until that agenda item is brought forth before the commission. Also, please do not use the chat. It is unmonitored, but please use the raise hand function if you do have an inquiry for commissioners. We also remind all to direct all comments to commissioners. Do not direct comments to each other. Okay. First item on the agenda is public comments. Is there anyone here for public comment that is not related to the Barcroft? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Next item is the approval of the minutes from January. Does anyone have any edits or comments on the minutes?
I moved. I second.
Okay, the motion has been moved by Commissioner Landford and seconded by Commissioner Clegg. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Okay, moving on to the presentation of the Barcroft. We have Ms. Hagerman from J. Lynch. I'll turn over the floor to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us, for allowing us to present today. I'm joined by a lot of team members. I'm not going to introduce all of them, but we have several folks from J. Lynch, our asset manager, and other development team member, and Gates Hudson is represented on the call as well to help. Gates Hudson, our property manager, to represent as well. To keep things simple, we're going to share what we presented to the residents at our resident meeting that happened on January 28th in the snowy, right after the snowstorm. We all gathered. I don't know why I got kicked off, but we all gathered in the community room.
You just have to mute your audio there. Yeah.
Not default to that. Okay. We all met at the Barcroft community room and got kicked off again. Okay. And fielded questions, presented to the residents, fielded questions. The focus of this, the relocation plans that you guys received for review are, let's see, phases RB3, we call them, Bravo 3 and Bravo 4, which is will be our 5th and 6th phases of renovation at Barcroft Apartments, and 5th and 6th, sorry, I guess really the 3rd and 4th and 5th that you guys have seen, because our 3rd and 4th phases were consolidated at the time of presentation. It is a section of about nine buildings along South Thomas Street, residents of 1100 to 1176 South Thomas Street. So if you don't mind going to the next slide, Hector. And the next one as well. Here is the team members that were present. As you can see, you have Adam and I from J. Lynch. Patricia is spearheading the relocation efforts from the Gates Hudson team. Shanaz and Lisette are the day-to-day contacts on the property management team. And Gina Ramos as well is the regional director. Sorry, Gina, if I got that wrong, who's also overseeing the property and was there to support. Next slide, please. So just as an update to where we are, this is on the 9 buildings that I mentioned on South Thomas Street, closest to Columbia Pike. As of right now, the renovations are expected to start in mid to late summer 2026. Unfortunately, with affordable housing financing, things have been fluctuating for us. So that's been one of our hardest goals or hardest kind of missions is staying on with our targeted schedules and keeping residents informed and informed accurately, right? We don't want to give them bad information. So sometimes we withhold because we're not sure yet. Good news is all renovated apartments will be receiving all new finishes or refreshed finishes. For example, the hardwood floors remain, but they'll be refinished. The kitchens will be completely new, new cabinets, new appliances, new flooring, adding dishwashers. new laundry in the units. That's going to be a big change, lifestyle change, going from central community laundry rooms to in-unit laundry, and all new heating and cooling systems with individual controls as well as hot water in the units. I think in addition to the laundry, I think one of the most notable changes is we're updating all the electrical. I call from pole to outlet. Everything's going to be brand new. I know currently the electrical systems just haven't been able to handle the current usage, and we're adding a lot of electrical appliances as well. So updating that electrical is a big part of it. It's not aesthetically exciting, but it really will help with the functionality of these units. We will be renovating 5 units across this phase to be accessible units. We would like that to be more, but topography and creating accessible paths is really difficult at Barcroft. We're just placed on a hill. And additionally, landscape and courtyard improvements, including what I'm really excited about, between buildings 6 and 7, we'll be putting in a playground and also a mini play field between South Thomas Street and building 6 to kind of host soccer games and create a community gathering location for, it won't be a full-size soccer field, but a small play field there. Go to the next slide, please. So on-site transfer process, with us starting at our approval meeting, hopefully next month in a month, we will be starting the 120-day notice process and resident interviews. That's a more in-depth one-on-one with the Gates Hudson team to not only kind of verify the initial resident profile information that was collected, but also understand tenant accommodations needed. That's really where we gather like school-age children information, where bus stops are, or what bus stops they're using, what accommodations they might need, and so we can accommodate that in their temporary home. Let's see. We of course do the minimum 120-day notice process. Honestly, in the past, it's been a lot more than 120 days, which is something we're working on to kind of keep things more accurate, or at least provide more frequent updates. And then, of course, the 30-day notice before relocation, once we do have a better idea of timing. The renovations are going to take approximately 9 to 12 months, depends on the size of the building. We have to do the buildings all at once because of insurance purposes. So that will vary just based on how big the building is, and of course the relocations will take in that time frame as well. All moving expenses to be paid for by Gyre Lynch, no cost to the residents, and all residents will be moved to similar sized homes. So we'll get into the next level of that, but for their temporary move, they're going to be in comparable sized homes on the property. Next slide, please. So we also talked to the residents more about the income verification process. At this point, the residents of Barcroft have done 2 income verifications. One was just an initial self-reporting, and the next was an income verification process managed by Gates Hudson, but not the IRS certified moving back into your LIHTC unit income verification. So we wanted to walk tenants through what that formal LIHTC process looks like, going through, and the reality is the Gates Hudson team is really going to be readily available to answer any of those concerns that individual residents might have on what their income status means for their status at Barcroft. I'm going to skip over. So the biggest change from these relocation plans, which I'm sure you all noted, is whereas previously we intended to have enough unrenovated units available to be able to have all residents, regardless of income, remain on site at Barcroft. A few factors, which I'd be happy to get into, have made it so that we don't have that availability while still maintaining our renovation plan of keeping income qualified folks on site while we renovate their units. High level picture of why this is happening is, one, the good side of things is people are actually making more money than they had self-reported. So we have a lot more folks that are over 80, which means, but we still need the same amount of unrenovated units to use for our temporary relocations, and so the math just doesn't work out there as well. The other side of things is less positive, but we had hoped to make more progress on market rate construction at this point and be able to have some of those over 80 residents move into our market rate construction. But due to various factors, those have not come to fruition. And so that there will be a gap between when we need over 80 folks, when we need those units for relocation and when a market rate unit will be available for them to move to. All that being said, for the residents that are earning over 80% AMI, many will still stay on site. Our goal is to keep as many folks on site as possible. You know, we love our Barcroft community, and frankly, it's better for us to have vacant or have occupancy, excuse me. So it's double serving. But if the select residents that do have to relocate offsite will be given the same relocation assistance as those that are moving on site. So we'll pay for their move, provide packing materials, etc. And these residents, whether they're moving to an unrenovated unit or even if they do relocate offsite, and then we'll have options for priority placement at our new market rate buildings when they are finally available, they'll see those annual rent increases capped at 3% still. We're trying to keep as many protections in place as we can in light of the change in our kind of procedure here. Next slide, please, Hector. So this summarizes our two kind of paths. You know, we have the folks that are at or below 80% AMI, and we are still committed to moving those residents, those community members back into renovated homes. They will maintain their current rent, with the annual 3% cap. And the residents making over 80% AMI, as I just got into, will, you know, as many as we can, will stay on site, especially those, you know, we'll be prioritizing for school age children, you know, special accommodations, things like that. We'll be keeping as many folks on site, but those that do need to relocate off site, we have the kind of parameters in place with the relocation assistance and opportunities to return back if desired. So that's really our presentation. We then opened it up for Q&A. We repeated the presentation an hour later, so we had, you know, lots of opportunity for people to come in as their schedules allowed. Lots of questions were kind of like, how do I know what my income level is? You know, very kind of personal, specific questions, which we generally were, you know, we tried to explain as best we could to a range of audience members, but we mainly were saying, you know, your best opportunity to understand what this means for you is at your one-on-one meeting with Gates Hudson, or, you know, of course, earlier they can reach out to Gates Hudson for more information. And not a lot of other questions were on when their relocation was going to happen, which I tried my best to answer, but as I mentioned, everything's fortunately more fluid than we'd like because it's just harder to plan with the financing. So I tried to give broad strokes details on what that looks like for residents, but not wanting to overcommit or give bad information.
Thank you. I will now open the floor to commissioners if you have any questions. Kristen.
Yep, I have a question here. For the people who are over 80% AMI and that you aren't going to be able to house, have you worked with Gates Hudson or any partners to start targeting some communities that might have apartments in their time frame, or asking them that as their normal 60-day notice to vacates come in to sort of hold them for your people?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, so we're a little bit too far out to be within that 60 to 90-day range. We do have identified other properties in the area and already, you know, we've talked through with Hector, we went through a long meeting of kind of what the appropriate steps would be to ensure residents had the support. So as far as direct connections, I would say not yet, but yeah, we're absolutely committed to working with, you know, nearby properties, especially, or Gates Hudson sister properties, to have that kind of, you know, corporate relationship and use those influences to help.
Yeah.
Second question. When you said earlier, the same group of people that you're going to try to prioritize families with young children and so forth, do you have a formal plan, a point system, so that all those people who might fall into that category sort of know, okay, here's the criteria, and I'm probably nowhere near.
Yeah.
I'm a single person who can drive, who has no kids, nothing, versus the family with 3 kids, et cetera, et cetera. Is there something very formal that can help the residents know where they might stand?
Not yet, but that's a great, yeah, that's certainly something we can put together before next month's meeting, so they have a sense. I think we're optimistically hoping we will have very few folks that have to, it'll be a very limited number of folks because the numbers do keep changing. But yeah, that's a good thing to have in place. We can do it for next month's meeting, but also in advance of the resident, one-on-one assessment, so they can really understand the likelihoods of this happening to them.
I think that would relieve a lot of anxiety. I've been
Sure.
through a lot of these in my years
Yeah.
on the commission, and that the unknown is the
Of
worst,
course,
right?
yeah.
And so if people can sort of start strategizing ahead of time, where do I stand
Yeah.
on that point system, it would really help them a lot.
Yeah.
And help you too.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely something sorry. That's absolutely something we can put into place. It's, I know we have a lot of the kind of concept around it, but putting pen to paper so people can have something to refer to is will be a good tool.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Adrian.
Yeah, one of the things that I would add to that, it's, your sister properties are on the gates, Hudson. I think that even though you guys are now within the 60-day frame or 90 days, whatever you guys want to use to see if there's any transfers aspect, but also they're known for, a lot of families or even single people with no kids.
Yeah.
I think it would be good if you guys, while you guys do the recertification, if you guys have like a bucket of okay, with all of these tenants, whether we don't know where they're gonna be, what preference are they having, what type of communities, and start like the six, 7 communities that we have that we're gonna be working with, and see from that point if they're actually gonna be, are you guys gonna have like the same type of approval system to move them to those sister properties, or since they live at Barcroft, they don't have to do an application, just a recertification? What are you guys doing that as?
That's fair. My understanding, I'm gonna pass to maybe Gina or a member of the Gates Hudson team, but my understanding is you'd still have to go through that application process, mainly because it's different ownership. Like we have other Gates Hudson properties, but they're not, even our like special project density is different. It's different kind of owners, legal owners. But it's also, ours are further away. But anyways, the local ones from Gates Hudson, I don't think we can kind of bypass the application system. It's more so like a reference point, and like, the Gates Hudson can vouch for residents. Gina, can I put you on this? Oh, there we go. Thanks, Gina.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
That's a great question. So yes, the idea is to, interact with not only Gates Hudson sister communities, but others within the proximity of Barcroft, because we want to make sure that with residents that have, children in the area or locations specifically close to Barcroft, that we are going to be reaching out and making connections with others outside of Gates Hudson as well, outside of the sister community. Now, when it comes to application, they would need to, of course, apply, even if it's a sister community property, or whether it's Gates Hudson or not Gates Hudson. So we would help the residents through that process and get them connected with the property manager specific at that location and assist as best as possible.
I would add one more thing to that. Barcroft, South Arlington, it's the population is like a lot of families. And a lot of apartments do have or count on having a co-signer guarantor for those units. So I will probably explore options. If I was in your shoes, I would explore options of maybe having some type of pre-approval, or kind of like have those conversations with those different ownership that are under the same umbrella to be like, hey, is there any way that we can have some type of pre-approval? Because we will have X, Y, and maybe 5% of our tenants needing to relocate, because with you saying it could be 60, 90 days, we're not there yet, we're not sure. But if a family needs to relocate, give them a 60-day notice to relocation, what if their guarantor is outside the country or it's doing X, Y, and Z?
I want to clarify what I wasn't clear about it, but they will have more even than 120 days notice, because the way I perceive this happening is like at 120 days, they're having their resident assessment. They're kind of understanding their odds of having to relocate off site, but they're still, at this point, we're assuming folks will still move to a temporary unit at Barcroft, and then it won't be until we're at that IRS level LIHTC income verification at the move back time. So this is more like 120 days plus 9 to 12 months. You know, I think I hate to move. I assume it would be easier for folks to move once and, you know, if it's very obvious that they're over 80 and not, you know, and low on the point system, things like that, it's easier for them to move once and sooner, but there's much more of a runway. So all that to say, your point is still valid and we will certainly talk through what our options are for that, but I wanted to be clear, it's more than just that 120-day notice, especially when residents need it.
Yes, Kristen.
When you give the notice and you're going to be giving it relatively soon, which will come right at the end of the school year before the summer starts, et cetera, et cetera. Will you be letting anyone terminate their lease early to move to one of these sister properties, Gates Hudson's, or just, you know, down the road in another community so that you get that apartment
Yeah,
and they get situated
ask
at a time that's convenient for them?
I'm gonna ask the Gates Hudson team to confirm, but I'm pretty sure everyone's on month to month anyways, just to allow maximum flexibility both ways, you know, not only for us to be able to have these relocations happen when they need to with financing, but also for residents to be able to do that as well. Is that correct, Gates team, Gina?
That is correct. The majority of Barcroft residents are currently month to month, and in works, you know, we'll definitely make sure we accommodate appropriately. So there's not going to be penalty fees and whatnot, especially if they're impacted by that phase.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Those are all really helpful questions. Thank you for this presentation. The only question I have is, it looks like I'm looking at the profile. It looks like a lot of languages are spoken at Barcroft, and I'm just wondering whether outreach will be done in folks' native language, or what the process will look like for people who don't speak English as a first language.
Absolutely, yeah. Everything is translated usually by like an available, you know, QR code. It's a lot of online, but I know the Gates team is very good about, you know, making sure that the residents that might not be as digitally, you know, active have all the resources they need. But yes, everything is translated. At the resident meeting, we did have Spanish translation on site.
And is it translated into the other languages mentioned here, or just Spanish?
Live, it's just Spanish, but there's a transcription of the meeting is recorded and translated.
Different languages. Okay, thank you.
Let me, I have a list of languages that we translated it to. I think it's the Spanish, Arabic, Hindi, Amharic, Urdu. So it might not, there might be a few
That
that
looks like a
are not well represented. Yeah, exactly.
I do have some questions. What outreach was done to those that were not able to attend the January 28th meeting?
Yeah, so I was gonna share, but I think, so, all of those residents were, not only received a copy of the presentation, all residents received a copy of the presentation, but also, we do like an FAQ summary document at the end to capture some of those frequently asked questions that aren't well, established, and just kind of reiterate some of the, you know, frequently asked questions. So like, I'm sorry, what to expect and how we will support you, who is affected, timeline and phasing, what's being upgraded, you know, so just the moving process. Yeah, so hope we think this covers all the bases, you know, we certainly, it's everything we think residents need to know. And then of course, at the bottom, there's how to reach the team if you have any additional questions.
Have you guys, you know, with families working and everything, I mean, time schedule and languages, have you guys thought about maybe setting up like what is it called? Office hours, like just for answering this specific questions after hours, like after 6 o'clock when people start getting out of work.
That's a
7
great
o'clock,
question, yeah.
You know, in Spanish or something like that, because I mean, I recall being, you know, 5, 6 years old trying to translate to my dad, and I didn't even know that much Spanish and English at the same time. It's hard.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I'd rather hear from the source, and if I
Yeah.
can't go to a meeting on the weekdays
Yeah.
or on the weekends because I'm working, and
Yeah.
I can't call no one after 6 o'clock
Yeah.
other than my emergency call.
Yeah.
How do they?
I'm gonna turn again to the gig. Oh, there's
Oh,
Gina. I was
Gina.
gonna say, yeah, how do you guys handle that typically? I know we're open to, you know, solutions for that.
Absolutely. And we actually have an evening session once a month for the residents. It's called Resident Voice. And this is actually the time where we also do promote to the residents if you want to come in and meet with someone. Our relocation team also reaches out to one of the residents individually. Our relocation team, they are both bilingual in English and Spanish. So we offer those opportunities to meet with them and coordinate properly. But we do have a resident voice meeting once a month that is after hours.
And Gina, is that also just during the weekday or on the weekend as well?
It's during the weekday for the resident voice meeting, but we do have staff on property on Saturdays as well.
Have the, one thing that you said, Gina, was that you have two people that are calling individually to see if they got any information. Do you guys have like a tally or like a list of how many tenants have actually spoken to that team?
We
That's
absolutely
to
do.
make
So
sure that they're aware. You know, one thing is like, yeah, I'm sending all these emails, all these newsletters. And if you have like, you're living with family members, you might not even see it. So do you guys have like a list of the calls that you guys made and that they're aware of all the changes?
we do send it out via email. We send it door to door. So there's more than just, phone conversation. We do make it very clear to the residents if they have any questions. We also did an FAQ that is translated in multiple languages, which are the common questions that we are getting throughout the community. So we did find that very helpful as far as the residents' remarks as well, and feedback was positive with the FAQs. But to answer your question, any communication that is made with the residents, we have our software that we document and make those notes. But outside of that, we definitely make sure that we track, all of the calls that are coming in, and our team is holding with the residents.
So they do like a warm call before the 100. I forgot to mention that in my presentation, but they do a warm call. I did tell it to the residents. They do a warm call before the 120-day notice. Then you get the So there's phone call and written communication. In addition, we'll be especially because this is a change from how we started our approach here with the over 80 residents. We are doing the Gates Hudson team is going to be doing individual phone calls to those residents that have income verified currently at over 80 to give them a heads up of the change and just make sure they feel like they know their options are kind of path forward.
Some other questions regarding the relocation plans, and it's in you've mentioned it verbally, but it's not in your plan itself. Can you include and amend it to include the washer and dryers?
Yeah, I apologize. I saw that.
Yeah, it wasn't in any of the documents. I knew that was held true in the previous phases, and I was like, oh, I guess they're going back to communal.
That would be horrible.
But I just wanted that was one edit from my observation.
Yeah, I will say even when we have budget woes and people are like, oh, washer dry, I'm like, guys, we have advertised that.
Okay.
No.
You mentioned the ADA compliant units, it's 5. Is that across both section 1 and section 2, or just in section 1?
So there's actually 7 total in section 1, but this is buildings 1 through 9 are just a part of section 1, and there's 5 in buildings 1 through 9.
Yeah.
And they're all in actually Bravo 3. I don't know. Yeah, so Bravo 3 has 5.
Okay.
Section 1, which is a wider, it's a bigger area. Section 1 has 7 total, but the 5 in Bravo 3 are across 3 different buildings.
Another one, it's part of our relocation plan, is regarding parking and transportation requirements. In your plans, it said it's currently unavailable. Do you have a time frame for providing an estimate of what that information could be provided to the commission?
We generally get that information during the resident assessment, so that's why it's not ready for review now. If that's an issue, we can provide it after if that's okay. But I don't know what that does for your level of review. I'm happy to talk through.
It's just it was a concern in previous phases about parking, and as we know, if you drive through around the vicinity of the property, there's a lot of commercial vehicles that take up multiple spaces. So I understand if they're shift workers and they're coming home late at night, that they rather not walk a quarter of a mile on the road. park on the premises.
Yeah, it's parking's an issue. We're well aware, and you know, especially with a lot of the future development, which for everyone's kind of perspective is 5 to 10 years down the road. It's not an immediate that there's only a couple of projects that are breaking ground in the near future. But yeah, we're committed to 1-to-1 parking ratios. You know, we're readjusting some parking lots to make more spaces. But unfortunately, I feel like there's not much we can do about the distribution of spaces. Like some buildings happen to be close to parking lots and some are not. And obviously, the reason we like to do that in the resident, get that data in the resident assessments, it's like if maybe it is someone that comes back late at work late at night and they need to be closer to a parking lot. That's the kind of data that we're collecting, Hudson is collecting and factoring into the relocation plan or the relocation units for each resident. Yeah, parking is for sure an issue. We're very cognizant of it. We just struggle to improve it. You know, we certainly worked with our contractors. We've kind of gotten mixed feedback from the county. Like sometimes we've gone in for our use permit and said contractors cannot park on site, but then they take up parking outside of the Barcroft community, and that gets, that causes friction too. So then I think more recently they said, no, they have to park on site. So we're doing our best to balance. I think parking on site for the, construction crews is actually best because they're working generally when folks are at work and not there. And they want to park nearest to the vacant buildings because that's where they're working. So all that to say, there's not much we can do about the distribution of parking, right? But we will listen to residents that need special accommodations the best we can. We don't do reserved assigned spaces or anything like that either. That's another thing. I know they've tried since we've owned the property in 2021. They've tried many different iterations of managing parking kind of restrictions and towing policies and things like that. But I think what they do now is
So technically speaking, for Barcroft right now, it's 1-to-1 ratio every apartment. There's
not currently. I think it's less. I think we're under parked right now.
And what's your rules for regulations? So every unit can only register one car, or depending on the size?
I think it depends on the size of the unit. Gates Hudson team, I'm gonna go to you for that one, so I don't misspeak. Or Claire, if anyone knows the parking policy or the car registration policy.
Nobody wants to.
Nobody
wants to touch parking with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, we will certainly follow up. It's yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I apologize, but yeah, you register your car, you get a hang tag or a sticker, and then they tow outside of kind of what I call working hours. I park there during the day and I don't get towed because I'm there in working hours.
I guess my last question before we open it up. I guess how far along are you with the tenant interviews process? I know I think you're slated to come at the end of 2025, and we're now in February. We wanted just to see how far along.
They have not started. They do that sort of in sequence. I think that our first step was the resident meeting, coming here to meet with you guys. I think they'll wait until our approval meeting to make sure we're all good with everything, because that helps dictate. We knew this over 80 change was notable, right? So we wanted to make sure everyone on the county side was on board, and then we'll start going into those resident assessment meetings so we can accurately, advise folks on the.
And just a comment, I will say that you laid out the time in a very easily readable fashion, so I applaud you for that.
I am not known as a good writer, so I'm so glad. I'm an engineer.
Yeah, I would say this is a good template for other.
Well, we're gonna copy paste. I mean, we'll obviously update it by keep doing it. You'll see us again and again. So I'm glad it works. That's great to hear.
Okay. I will now open the floor to the public. I will remind the public to please direct comments to the commission directly and not to the developer.
Let's
Yes.
Well, I was speaking with Hector earlier today, and I told him that the commission and the department has come a long way with relocation plans. So, like you said, it's looking good. There are some things though, like you mentioned, the parking policy, I think it'll be ideal. And residents will need to know what your policy will be like. I think that's something that you can look into right now and include information about that. So
Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm getting, like, for both, for the commission and for you, what are you guys looking for, like, assigning, like, what would be an ideal outcome? I guess I'm trying to understand, like, our plan is no change, right? Where like, it's first come,
Okay,
first serve,
so-
it'll stay first come.
So
first
if you
serve?
can make a mention of that and say,
Okay.
our future parking policy
Yeah.
after the work is done is gonna remain the same. So
Okay,
it's-
okay,
It's that, or if you have a policy right now that says it's each household gets one permit. then,
I see, okay, yeah, okay, I can talk about permit level, that's totally.
Gina has her hand.
Oh, thanks, Gina.
So sorry, I couldn't unmute for some reason. So for our parking policy, if you have a 3-bedroom, you get 3 spaces. For 1s and 2s, you actually receive 2 spaces. And it's no charge to the residents for the lot.
That's very generous. Thank
That's
you.
good. I mean, have you guys thought about
Lowering that.
change? I mean, I've gone from properties that had let's say 300 units and 300 spaces, right?
Right.
And I know with time, people get more cars, family grow, and they have more cars. But we've had to in several locations, lower the amount of cars permitted on our lot with a sticker, and also. We have a few properties. At the beginning, people don't like it, but it works out. No guest passes allowed.
Yeah.
That helps out a lot. But yeah, you guys are very generous.
I
I think that's probably that's probably
Yeah.
where a lot of the issue comes from parking for you guys too.
Well, yeah, because we certainly don't have that quantity of spaces at Barcroft, we're not 2.0 parked, right, or 2.0 plus, so that's, yeah, but, yeah, we'll have, I'm like, can you imagine making that announcement that like everyone's
I mean,
losing
I'm-
out on parking?
I
Can
mean,
we get that from the commission's letterhead? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, somebody who's done some transition, one of the things that we did is, once you get everything squared away and you
Yeah.
find out how many vehicles each of them have, all of those people are grandfathered in.
Yeah,
And
just
then
moving forward, yeah.
As new leaseholders come in,
Yeah, that's fair,
you
yeah.
put your new policy in, because eventually people will move out.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, we have
Well,
people that are,
3-bedroom, 3 parking spaces. why
yeah,
not?
well, did you see our 10-year?
Yeah, I know, yeah, but still, there's always gonna be churn. Right.
Yeah.
And particularly the 1-bedrooms where you're giving them 2 parking spaces, you'll churn there.
I think part of it, and again, this is probably grandfathered in from past ownership. I don't know when the parking policy originated, but I think part of it too is, to your point, is a very a family-oriented site, right? There's a lot of families. So even in a 1 or 2 bedroom, you do have families living there and, multiple cars.
So the last,
Grandfathering in people is a good idea because that prevents problems with people getting upset if you change it to a lower
Yeah.
number of parking spaces. Now, there is definitely a need, and I like that you think about families because you may have the household where you have the husband that works in construction
Yeah.
or is self-employed as a contractor, and you may have a wife that does cleaning. And
Yeah.
so each one of them depend
Mhm.
on a vehicle to get to work and,
Yeah.
earn money to make ends meet, pay rent and afford everything else. So
Gotta have any
I
other
like that you have that in
questions?
mind.
Does Bugatti have any other questions for?
Yeah. One other observation that I didn't see mentioned here, aside from the washer and dryer in the unit, going along with that is utilities. So currently you did mention that utilities are included. What is the plan after the work is done? Would it continue to be included or what would be separate from the rent? So if you could include language on that.
And me respond.
Okay, so, the short answer is we are still figuring that out, unfortunately, and I've been kind of expressing to our team the need to decide that soon. However, so currently, yes, utilities are included, with the exception of internet and, TV, that cable and internet is paid for by the residents. But yes, currently all residents are included. All the utilities are included.
That's right.
Late for me.
Yes.
Moving forward, there is a possibility we go to resident paid utilities. However, that would of course mean the utility allowance is removed from their base rent. So they're, it's not a straight add-on to their rent. we honestly think of it as a positive because it will then give the residents the ability to control. You know, they're getting these independent controls for heating and cooling, their hot water heaters, their laundry, like all of that is will be their control. And so if they, you know, want to like really tighten up and mind their usage and their utilities go down, right? Like, so, but all that being said, we are putting in the infrastructure to sub-meter water and to sub-meter electricity. But as far as like what that means for the financing plan and the residents, that has not yet been determined. And we have to decide soon because we're, you know, moving folks back in soon for our first phase. So it is top of mind, high priority, and apologies, we don't have an answer yet, but we're working on it.
Thank you.
I did explain that to the residents too, that it was either gonna stay the same or they would see a decrease in there.
And Gina also has her hand up. So Gina, the floor is yours.
Hi, yes. So just one quick question, because we do have a total of 4 buildings that are right on Columbia Pike that currently do pay for utilities. The rest of Barcroft is all utilities included. The other thing I wanted to add to parking, you know, Barcroft sits at 64 acres. And there's a lot of county parking as well. So residents do have the ability to park on 4 Mile Run, George Mason, you know, there's options there. We don't provide any sort of guest parking. It's just the number of parking passes that I mentioned earlier. So just wanted to add that, sorry.
Gina, no, yeah.
Just to follow up, because Gina, point of clarification, why are those 4 structures along Columbia Pike different from the rest of the property regarding utilities?
That was the current setup with prior ownership group because they do have AC units. It's not ran through the boiler system, so they do have electricity there versus the greater of Barcroft is gas in 1 meter as well. So that is the reason to that.
And they were built later, so they have their own Dominion meters, they have their own AC.
Okay.
And
So,
just a point of clarification on the county parking, is that free street parking or is it?
Yeah, all of South Thomas that kind of runs through it. It really is all surrounded. So that's, and we worked out with the county when we went in with our commitment of maintaining 1-to-1, or I'd say maintaining, but achieving 1-to-1 parking spaces. We are allowed to include a lot of that street parking because it is, you know, it's exclusively used by the Barcroft residents, and I think that was understood.
thank you, Alice. Bugata, do you have other questions?
Yeah, I don't recall seeing information, but if it isn't, is what type of heating and ventilation system will be in it, in each unit, whether it's gonna be a heat pump with heat or AC built into it, you know, and the resident will have control over that. I'm sure you're not gonna keep the boiler systems. So, and then lastly is just, I guess, a suggestion or recommendation is that to deliver the relocation plan to each of the households who are going to be affected, so that they get that, along with your recommendation about, you know, who to reach out to, who to call if they can't make it to any of the meetings because of any commitment or work. So that's it for me.
And Alice, I believe you did say that everyone did get a copy of the presentation.
Yeah, the presentation, this specific relocation plan that we submitted, I don't think has been distributed, but we certainly can do that. I know it's always available at the leasing off, you know, once it's been approved, it's available at the leasing office, but yeah, and it's easy enough to send a link for residents to use as well. As far as, oh, sorry.
Usually it's presented at the tenant meeting, you know, your draft, but then once you approve it, then you can send a final copy to.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. Yeah, absolutely. HVAC question, okay to okay. The HVAC is gonna be a traditional split system, so heating and cooling in 1 unit, and it'll be controlled by in the units themselves. So no PTAC, no radiators, no in-floor heating anymore, which is one of the existing systems, but yeah, it'll all be independent, as well as hot water will be independent to the units as well.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now open the floor to resident or the public. Is there anyone on the call with public comment regarding this plan? Okay, hearing none, I would like to thank you. I'm sure we will be in touch with our recommendations and the updated plan. But as of now, I think we can plan on looking forward to seeing the revisions at the March meeting.
Okay, so just to confirm next steps, obviously I took some notes and I have some homework assignments, but
I'll compile all the recommendations from them and I'll send them to you.
great. And then we'll make revisions, resubmit. Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your time.
I'll send them to you by Thursday. By Wednesday, if everybody can send it to me, I'll compile everything together, send it to
Wednesday, so I
you.
know yeah, okay.
You'll have 1 week to return, see if it is, then we'll do the final draft and distribute it to everyone.
Sounds great. So the one thing I think that we might have a hard time meeting that deadline on is the parking because we do typically wait for the resident assessments. Is that okay? Is that acceptable?
Yeah, I think you've answered our concerns and the ratio and how that,
I would
It's just
put that.
it's just that a lot of it was omitted, and that's why it was a concern in previous phases, so we wanted to make sure that we have a
Absolutely.
response.
So we'll definitely put language in around the parking policy. What we just don't have is the resident data of like how many vehicles each resident
Yeah,
typically.
that I understand.
Just making sure we're all.
So,
Just came to mind one last thing. I don't recall seeing, do you think there's gonna be anyone that would qualify for the URA, I believe it's called, a relocation payment, which is at some under 50% level or something like that?
Since they're temporary relocations, they're going to be receiving assistance or moving expenses.
But if anyone decides to
On the
leave,
ones that may want to leave, they will have the option of moving assistance or the relocation plan. That's on the guidelines.
Yeah, and that's in our plan as well. I don't mention it, but that is an option. Instead of the relocation assistance, the resident could take the relocation.
do you think you have anyone at that level? You know, being very low income, and so that the other payment could apply?
I don't think the very low income will move out. No resident will.
With LIHTC rules, I don't want to overpromise, but there's a chance even really low income residents, their rent will go down even because of the way the
mhm.
rent structure works. So I hope that very low income residents stay because I do think it's in their best interest.
Actually, one thing that came to mind, since you spoke so much about utilities and you're upgrading the electrical infrastructure, which is,
Excuse me, yeah.
I guess, will that be more eco-friendly for the property, and we'll hopefully see, I mean, I know there's a lot of discussion now, especially in the Commonwealth regarding data centers and driving up electrical bills and such. So will the new upgrades hopefully alleviate some of it?
Yes, I did some calcs early on, and I think the like total energy consumption, if you compared like the gas usage and of the boilers and everything before to now, it's like a 13% reduction because we are adding a lot of the conveniences with the individual laundry and the dishwashers, for example, microwaves, exhaust fan, we're adding electric draws. But in general, we did actually work with the Arlington County sustainability groups early on, and a lot of, the electrification in general was seen as a positive or is seen as a positive. And that was that was an objective, was to do as much in electric. Whether the residents see it in their bottom, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think
I know
that.
it's out of your control.
Of course, but I don't think it's gonna be a huge drastic swing because of the additional appliances added, but yeah, it was done with sustainability in mind.
Thank you for
Of
that.
course, yeah, no more gas at the property at all. We will be discontinuing gas usage.
Any last minute questions?
Interesting. I want Andy to know.
I know, right? I'm so excited.
Okay, if there's no other questions, thank you. We look forward
Sure,
to
that's a
seeing
good
you
time.
next month and the revised plan then.
Sounds good. I will probably join virtually next month as we talked about, but if there's, we'll talk. I'm happy to come in person. Thank you so much. Thank you guys.
Okay, next item is staff reports. Do you all have something for us?
There's only one thing, Marbella, it's finishing, well, it finished. It's opening for tenants. I asked about the people that were relocated before. Of all the ones that moved, so far only 7 have moved back. The others, they said, are comfortable where they were.
Okay.
But they don't expect more, but they're still waiting for
Can you remind us how many people?
about 39.
Sharon, do you have any updates?
No, sorry.
Okay, we're still waiting for the budget, so once that comes out, hopefully this week, that'll be our main agenda topic, aside from this in March, so. Stay tuned for that. Yes. Okay, any other comments, motion on the floor?
To adjourn?
Yes.
Move adjournment.
Okay. Motion has been moved to adjourn and seconded.
Sure, I will.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, meeting, yes. This concludes our Wednesday, February 11th,